Ladies, this is the #1 way to not be unalived by your boyfriend or your husband. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and there is this phenomenon in criminal law where I use very gendered terms in this video, so please excuse that. When you are going to leave your partner, when you ultimately decide, hey, it's time to go, do not do it in person.
And get past him and I think, oh, thank God, I'm out the door, I'm fine, I'm safe. And right when I think that, I get snatched up like this.
Women can no longer leave their relationship anymore. It's either they leave their relationship unalive or maybe in a critical condition in the hospital. For some reason, I don't know why. So today's video, guys, we are going to be listening to some very, very important videos about how to break up in a safe way, how to leave a relationship. If your relationship is toxic, or maybe you are fed up, you are tired of the relationship, you want to break up, how to do it in a safe way whereby you don't get hurt, your partner does not get hurt. Let's dive into this video.
Ladies, this is the #1 way to not be unalived by your boyfriend or your husband. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and there is this phenomenon in criminal law where I use very gendered terms in this video, so please excuse that, but this is specifically focused on cis men, boyfriends, and significant others. I can talk about sort of queer aggression and defenses for gay panic defenses in a different video. When you are going to leave your partner, when you ultimately decide, hey, it's time to go, do not do it in person. Do not do it alone. Do not do it in a private setting. There is decades of case law, case after case after case, where the woman decides to leave the man, and that moment that the man realizes she is actually leaving, this is not a threat, this is not, just sort of a fight, that she is actually going to go, that is the moment that, I don't know how to say it on TikTok, but that is the moment when the unaliving occurs. So there's just sort of decades of precedent where this situation has happened. There's actually an entire section of case law in my criminal law textbooks in law school going over cases, they're called the heat of passion crimes. You might be thinking like, oh, but he's different, or not him, or but I love him, or we've been married for X number of years. I guarantee you, every woman who is now the subject of case law in a criminal law textbook thought the same exact thing. So please, I know I make goofy, stupid videos on TikTok, but this is probably like, please take this advice. I know breaking up with someone over the phone sucks. I've been the recipient of it. I know that breaking up with someone over text sucks. I know that maybe doing it at a restaurant or in a public place, but if there's any sort of history of aggression or violence in this person's background, or you just sort of have that sinking feeling where you're like, maybe there's like a 1% chance of like an extreme reaction, please just do it. I'd rather you be a jerk who broke up with someone over the phone who is still alive than someone who is the next person in a legal textbook. That sounds really dramatic. That sounds really extreme. But it's your life and you only get one of them. So I want y'all drinking cold brew with an ugly fat dog next to you for a very long time.
This is one of the biggest lessons that I have had to learn as a woman dating in my adulthood. He goes on to say that when you get to the point where you are about to end the relationship, do it over the phone. And if you have to do it in person, do it in public. Do not do it in private. And after my last dating experience, I will never again end things with a man in person, in private. It is culturally instilled in us from a young age that the right thing to do is to end a relationship face to face. But honestly, that is just not worth risking your life, especially if there is any doubt in your mind that this man has any sort of violent tendencies or is not all the way. In my last relationship, when things were starting to fall apart and we were starting to have conversations around potentially no longer continuing the relationship, I started to realize that he was not reacting to these conversations in the way that typical adults respond. It was obvious to me that he was not all the way happy either. But whenever we would get to the point in an argument where I was like, yeah, I'm actually going to end the relationship, things would escalate to a level that I just could not comprehend. And while it was obvious that this relationship was not going to end in a non-dramatic fashion, it never occurred to me that that could actually be very dangerous for me. The night that I had finally had enough and decided to end it, we had gotten into a fight at dinner. I waited until we got home from dinner to end the relationship. I didn't want to cause a scene in public, and I felt like, well, this is a private conversation. It should take place in a private setting. So as we were having this breakup fight and I tell him that I am done, I can see that it's not registering in his brain that I'm actually being serious until I start packing up my belongings. So I grab all my belongings, I put them in a bag, I put on my backpack, and I go to walk out. And at this point, I can see it click in his eyes that he realizes I am serious and that this relationship is over. The moment this happens, he races to the door, stands in the door frame, and blocks me from leaving the apartment. At the time, I had never experienced anything like this, and I did not realize how serious this was. I thought he was just being dramatic. But as he is refusing to let me leave, my adrenaline is starting to rush and I am getting increasingly panicked. I finally get past him and I think, oh, thank God, I'm out the door, I'm fine, I'm safe. And right when I think that, I get snatched up like this. I had a backpack on and he grabs the handle of the backpack and yanks me back. So safety tip for women, whenever you're wearing a backpack, never wear both straps of the backpack. From that day forward, I always only carry a backpack with one strap. In the event that another man ever tries to grab me, I can drop the backpack off my shoulder and run. So at this point, I am panicking. We are standing in the hallway. He is holding my backpack. The straps are pressed up against my shoulders. I cannot get away. I cannot move. My only thought is start screaming. So I start yelling in the hopes that causing enough commotion will get him to drop the backpack and leave me alone. And it does. But there is another door at the end of the hallway, which he then runs to and blocks as well. At this point, I'm realizing there's two more doors. There's a staircase and there's a parking garage I have to get to and out of in order to get out of here. And I realize it is in my best interest to now de-escalate the situation because I am scared for my safety. And I know that even if I get out of here tonight, like this breakup is not going to end tonight. This is going to continue and this is going to be something that's drawn on and very dramatic that I just don't want to deal with. So I choose to de-escalate the situation, tell him never mind, and I will stay and go back into the apartment with him. So at this point, I just tell him, look, I am past my limit with you. I will give you a pass tonight, but if this happens again, the thing that happened to cause the initial fight, I'm done, I'm gone. So he is acting amazing for the next couple days. If you guys have ever dealt with a master manipulator, I now understand how y'all end up in these relationships. Because for the life of me, prior to him, I could not understand how people got into situations like this. So I stay in the relationship for 4 more days because, again, I didn't understand at the time how serious that behavior was. A large part of me still just thought, oh, he's being dramatic. But sure enough, the original offense that caused that big fight in the first place happens again. But this time, I was like, okay, I'm going to be smart about how I go about this breakup. Instead of being impassioned and acting on my impulses in the moment, I waited for him to leave and go to work. While he was at work, I packed up all of my things, moved my car out of his garage, and moved it onto the street. I knew if I broke up with him over the phone, he was going to show up at my apartment, and that was something that I wanted to avoid. So I felt like it was better to do it in person, in public. I parked my car on a very crowded street, both with pedestrian foot traffic and car traffic. I knew it was going to be rush hour when he got home, so I knew there would be a ton of cars sitting on the road next to us, and I parked right in front of his building security that I knew could watch the whole interaction go down. Sure enough, he gets home from work, parks behind my car on the busy street, but this is where I went wrong because he was taking too long to get out of his car. I got impatient, got out of mine, and got into his. Y'all, don't do that. But I did leave the passenger door open. So I confront him in the car about his behavior, and I let him know I'm done for real, like this relationship is over. I then go to get out of the car, and at this point, he reaches out and grabs my arm. I am telling him to let go of my arm, and it is becoming apparent to me that he is not going to let go of my arm, and he has no plans of letting me out of this car. I'm wearing a jacket, so my first thought is, okay, take off the jacket because then maybe he'll lose the grip on my arm and he'll just be holding the jacket. So as I'm trying to take off my jacket, he realizes what I'm doing. He lets go of my arm. I sprint out of his car, jump into the driver's side seat of my car, but he jumps out of the car as well and he follows me. When I get into my car, he steps in between the door frame and the door so that I can't close it and is holding the door open with both arms wide. At this point, I am still talking calm to him. I'm talking to him exactly like I am talking to you guys now, but my adrenaline is starting to spike. As he is pleading for me not to leave, it is becoming apparent to me that he has no plans of moving. Again, y'all, this is rush hour on a busy street. There are people walking by. There are cars not only driving by, but stopped next to us watching what is going on. I tell him, you need to step away from my car or I am going to run you over. He says, run me over. I'm not moving. So I say, okay, and I step on the gas. I'm thinking, like any logical person, he is going to back away from the car when he realizes that I am serious. But no, he is not a logical person. He jumps into the car onto my lap. He grabs the steering wheel with one hand, holds the door open with the other hand, and is kicking my foot out of the way so he can get to the brake. Now I start screaming. I am scared. I am panicking. I do not know what to do to get this grown man off of my lap so that I can get away and go home. Mind you, I deliberately picked this spot because I know that he hates causing scenes in public. And not only was this in public, but it was in front of people that he knows, his building security. But as I'm getting increasingly panicked, I feel like it's in my best interest to cause a scene. So I start screaming. Everyone is staring. People are yelling out their cars. Oh my God, are you okay? He yells back, she's fine. I'm her boyfriend. She's breaking up with me. At this point, this girl who is driving by rolls down her window and starts recording. I tell him, hey, we're being recorded. I really don't want to be on the internet. Please get off of me so I can go home. His response is to scream at her, record us all you want. She threatens to call the cops. I then tell him, if you don't get off my lap, I am also going to call the cops. Cars are flying by. My car door is wide open. I'm thinking like they're going to hit my car door. My car is going to break. I am like jerking my car back and forth, just trying to figure out how to get him off of my lap and make him lose his balance so he will get out of my car. I tell him I'm going to call the cops. He tells me to call the cops. So I call the cops. I call 911. I'm on the phone with the 911 operator. I give her his full name, his description. And the whole time I'm on the phone with 911, me and him are screaming at each other back and forth, and he still will not get out of the car. The operator tells him if he does not get out of the car, she is going to send the police. At this exact moment, a woman on the street sees us and comes over and intervenes. I don't know who this woman was or where she came from, but God himself sent her down because she was twice his size and looked like she lived in the gym, okay? She came up to my car and was like, do we have a problem here? At this point, he gets off of my lap, steps away from me, still is holding the door open. But as this woman is approaching and yelling at him, and as the 911 operator is telling him that she's about to send the police, he steps away just far enough from the car. The woman from the street turns to me and she just says, go. So I slam my door, I hit the gas, and all the cars stop driving to let me out, and I zoom on the freeway and I zoom to my apartment. He then calls me 39 times. I pack up all my belongings and I go stay at home with my parents for a week. I had to order extra security cameras to put around my apartment and extra locks to put on my doors. After this, I had to block his number from all of my phones, all of my social media platforms, including email and LinkedIn, and his work number that he was using the company phone to call me from. I also caught him showing up to events that he knew I was going to be at. And all I can think is, thank God I decided to do this in public. That was so traumatizing. And all I could think was, if this is how he acted in public, I don't even want to imagine what he would have acted like if I would have went through with it in private. And mind you, from the day I met this man to the day I blocked him was no more than 4 months. So if you have been deeply involved with someone, especially if it's been for a long period of time, and there is any doubt in your mind that they are capable of violent tendencies, end it over the phone. End it over the phone. And if you have to end it in person because you feel like you need that, not just because you're trying to be a good person, because being a good person is not worth it, make sure you are in a public, well-lit area that you can easily escape from, because it is simply not worth the risk.
So he goes on to say that you should always tell your boyfriend or your husband that you're leaving, like over text or in a very public place where you're safe. And I couldn't agree with that more. When I told my abuser that I was leaving him, I was like, I'm leaving. And he was like, no, you're not. And he was freaking out. And I just ignored him and went to put my shoes on. And anyways, he attacked me and I never got my second shoe on. And I tried to just go for the door, but I didn't make it to the door handle. And anyways, his plea hearing is in a few days. And I remember I was watching a podcast on abuse, and they were looking at cases of family annihilators, and they found that a majority of the cases that they were looking at, there wasn't a huge amount of evidence that these men had been physically abusive. There wasn't reports of domestic violence in these cases.
So you might think like, oh, he would never, blah, blah, blah. But if that dude depends on you for stuff, if that guy counts on you to like do stuff for him and whatever, like, you have no idea how he's going to react. And if I ever decided to date again, I would definitely do all my breakups over text.
Go watch that whole video. He has a lot of very good advice, very legal and illegal advice, as well as safety wise. If you're leaving your partner, particularly, and he's kind of stressing the cisgendered men, especially. I just wanted to pipe in with a personal experience as a child, and again, why? Because I didn't understand it at the time, but now as an adult, and now in several situations where I had to be there for somebody who was leaving a partner, or even in my case when I had to leave my husband. And I woke up one morning. Mom woke me up. I'm 10 years old. And she's like, pack your bags. We're going camping. Like, grab your stuff. And I'm like, oh, sweet. This is great. I love camping. Oh. It was summertime. Dad had left for work. And we packed the bags. And Mom just started driving. Just kept driving. And we're like, where are we going? There's no camping sites here. Mom dropped me and my two younger brothers off at a shelter, a woman's shelter, and just left us there. Kind of like we were very confused. And then we were surrounded by a lot of other kids, a lot of other women, and I realized it was a safe house. And we weren't even allowed to really go outside. We were essentially in a lockdown for protection. And later learned Dad had been served divorce papers when he went to work. He came home, his kids are gone, the house is empty, and he had no idea where we were at. And it was undoubtedly a shock to him. And for a long time, I didn't understand why Mom did that. They were married for 20 years. They had 5 kids. And Dad was a bit scary, I will admit. And my mom has since passed, so I can't talk to her about this, but I understand now what she did. She calculated this quiet exit. She did everything. She studied. She knew exactly how to escape because she didn't know what Dad's reaction was going to be. When she said that she's divorced, she had no idea. She had no way of really knowing how he was going to react, and she did the right thing. I'm very good friends with my dad. You know, like I love my father, but I understand every reason why Mom did all the normal things as a housewife, saw Dad off, packed us up, and she ran. And that's the right thing to do. So I guess yes, this may look kind of cruel. It may be really hard. But when it's time to leave, you just leave. You just leave.
Okay, so the first time I tried to make this video, it was almost 10 minutes long. So I'm not going to do that this time. I'm just going to say that I wish I had known that at the time. And even so, even if I did, I made the decision to leave literally in the moment. Like, it was not planned. I had just had enough after 4 years. And the last thing I was expecting was for him to legitimately try and unalive me. Now, the fact that I was shocked he put his hands on me, he had done that multiple times over the years, so it shouldn't have been surprising, but it was because of the context of the situation, right? I was very surprised because until that point, it was always him telling me to go away and to leave him alone and, just putting all blame on me. This time, I was the one who said, I can't do this. I'm done. I need to go and be in my space. And that's the other thing. I wasn't even saying that I was going to leave him forever. I was just saying, I want to go to my own space and go to sleep. I just can't do this argument anymore right now. I can't, I'm exhausted. And so when I said, I can't do this right now, I need to leave, I was packing up my bag and literally trying to leave. So all of that was a first. At that point, I had in 4 years, I had never been the one to kind of like steer the direction of the argument in such a big way. He was always the one who was in control, and this was the first time I ever took control. And I think me taking control is really why he snapped. I mean, for the last, gosh, how long has it been now? That was 2019. You know, for the last 5 years, every time I've said, you know, I'm lucky to be alive, I really am lucky to be alive. Anyways, all that to say, if you are going to leave, you need to be very mindful about how you do it. Don't tell them. Just make your plans and find a way to do it where you won't be doing it alone with them in person.
You guys have heard all the information you need to know. Like, it's not safe for you to break up with your partner face to face. If you want to do it face to face, you have to do it in a public place, because a lot of young girls has been unalive. Like, if you check deeply, you will hear that they were about to leave the relationship or they left. Sometimes, even if you leave, try to go hiding. I know you may think this is crazy. If you can leave that country and go to another country, because in some case they will look for you. It's so crazy that you can no longer just leave a relationship anymore. It's like a court that if you are in a relationship, you have to be in a relationship. You cannot say it's over. It's like, as us, a woman, you don't have the right to say it's over. What is this world turning into? Our women are being unalived because they want to leave. So ladies, if you know the man you are with is the domestic, you know, please be careful. If you want to leave the relationship, do not break up with the person in his house, in private. Do it in public. In fact, go to the supermarket. Take him to the mall, the shopping center. Do it there. As once you are done doing it, make sure you leave that state. If you know you are not safe, we can say the police are there for you, but sometimes before the police get to you, you will be gone already. So I know it's not easy, but this is what we have to do as ladies. And also, please look at the kind of man you are going out with. Anyway, you cannot really tell, because there's something about this breakup, especially when you went to a person and you are like, it's over between us, and that person see you as their God on earth. That person is like, he worship you. The love is so strong, like he's obsessed with you. There is something that will just click. Maybe the person does not mean to hurt you, but there is something, that spirit of rejection will just click, and the person will not know when he will attack you. And before you know, they'll be like, oh, it's the devil. It was the devil. Sometimes it's not their fault. It's just that rage that come up. So it's better we do it in public. Right from time, me, I always break up via the phone. So guys, like I said, please be guided out there, my fellow girls. Be guided, and like we all said, public shopping center is the best place to break up, or via the phone. Okay, ladies, I'll see you in my next video. Bye, y'all.